Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first meeting of 2025 of the Bike Walk Commission. My name is Emily Verneman. I am chair, and in honor of our new agenda here, I believe I start with a call to order and roll call. So in that case, I will read off our attending commissioners. Becca Stoll, are you present?
Yes.
Tanner Thompson, are you present?
Yes.
Manny Salgado, are you present?
Present.
Excellent. And then I heard from Nick Pappas, who will be joining in a couple of minutes. And then we have two members not available to meet with us tonight, Christine and Judd. Okay, so then next item on our agenda here is public participation. So we open this up to members of the public. If there's anything you want to say, I see we have a few attendees tonight. If there is anything you want to share with our commission, please feel free to raise your hand and we will unmute you. It seems like we don't have any raised hands at the moment. Okay. If there's nothing to say, then I will move on to our next item here, which will be our acceptance of the minutes from our last meeting in December. I believe, Greg, you sent those out the other week, and I didn't have any edits. Did any other commissioners have the opportunity to review those minutes or have any amendments or edits? Oh, Tanner?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to recuse myself from the actual vote because I wasn't at the meeting, but I did find a typo to lean toward the end. The last bullet point under educational subcommittee, there's a typo in Mr. Pappas's name. That's all.
Okay, I'll make the change.
Okay. I guess in order for us to vote to approve the minutes, we need a quorum. And if Tanner, you can't vote and we don't have Nick, I don't know if we are able to vote on the approval of the minutes.
I think you're gonna have to table them.
Okay. So we will table the minutes for our next meeting, or can we do that when Nick Pappas is able to join?
Yep, as long as you have a quorum.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. So then moving on to our next agenda item. Oh, I see I have a raised hand from Paul Chenard. Diane, would you mind giving him the opportunity to speak before we dive into our next item here?
I'm sorry, I was trying to get to my phone when you were calling for a public meeting. I just wanted to raise real quick that there's an active transportation meeting being held by the state tomorrow in Stamford.
Thank you, Paul. Yes, I believe we saw that come through, and I'm happy to hear you bring that up in our meeting today. I know there's a few of them happening this week, but on the state level, I think you mentioned the one in Stamford. I think there's another one in Bridgeport and New Haven as well later this week. I'm happy to post that information to our subscribers and on our social media to help spread the word to get people to attend. And it's a community open house, correct? That people can attend and give feedback to active transportation on a state level. Perfect. Thank you, Paul, for bringing that up. Okay. With that, I will move on to our agenda here for new business. Since our last meeting, we were working on our 2025 strategic goals and initiatives. I'm excited to share the progress we've made. So I will share my screen here. Can everyone see my screen? Okay. Okay. So my request in our last meeting was to have each of our commissioners review this outline of the strategic plan, give input, and decide on which areas of focus that they align with most and how we can continue to build on this from our last strategic plan. And this document is very much based on our 2024 goals, as well as our ordinance, which is our purpose and reason behind the Bike Walk Commission. So aligning with those two things became this document. So you'll see in the outline on the left here, we have our prime areas of focus, which include education, communication and outreach, infrastructure and accessibility, events, grants and recognitions, getting Norwalkers biking, and then accountability and reporting. So kind of starting with this first section here, our goal for education, again, a primary motivator. And in our meeting with the mayor, Nick Pappas and I, this was definitely something that he supported and wanted to encourage, especially this year, more avenues for us to continue to build on how we can partner with other localization organizations and schools on promoting education. So our primary goal this year, and again, this supports our bike league, bike friendly city certification, is having a safe cycling course. And we had a really good meeting last year with the CT State Community College about possibly doing it with them, hopefully by this summer and fall. So I'm hoping Christine, Julia from the health department, Brianna from New Vance Health would all participate and collaborate with us in this. So this is something that we're trying to put together. A big part of that, though, is having another league certified instructor. Julia is in conversation with her team and her boss about the opportunity to attend the seminar that's going to be happening in New Haven in April of 2025. So that's why this second goal here is to work with her, and additionally Brianna, if she's available, to also get that certification. Any questions or comments from commissioners or the public on these goals for education? And I'm curious to hear what you think too.
I'm just wanted to clarify, is number 2 a prerequisite to number 1? Do we need the Norwalk League cycling instructor in order to run these courses?
So luckily, Christine is a league certified instructor. So I wouldn't want it to be dependent on another certification, because we could move forward without it. But it's to our benefit to have another one, especially one that works, for the city of Norwalk, like Julia.
Gotcha. Thanks.
The third one I have here is the goal to recruit more subject matter experts, SMEs, to our educational subcommittee. We've formed a committee of, it's been the Norwalk Public Schools participants and Brianna and Julia from New Vance, Shalia and Brianna from New Vance Health. We are meeting occasionally. I can't say, the goal is to meet monthly. But to get more people involved in our committee, and then hopefully to have other speakers come to either our commission meetings or participate in webinars or just educational videos or materials. We've had some really good partnerships like Amy Watkins from Watch from VCT, and I want to continue to build on that and have that educational opportunity with people who are in that focus of pedestrian safety, participating and working with us. So that's this third goal here as well. Oh, there was a note here about the DMV. Becca, when we were reviewing this together too, we thought it would be to our benefit to work potentially with the Department of Motor Vehicles with their driver's ed course and bike safety courses, or pedestrian safety courses and seeing if we can have some sort of collaboration there as well. But I don't know if this belongs right here, so I'm just going to remove this for them.
I had a question about number 3. For
Yep.
For the plan and measure, it's the same as number 2, right? Or
It is. Thank you. So these need to be corrected.
Oh, okay.
This was a nice to have. Yeah. I might for now remove this because it was
Okay.
a nice thought, but there was another person that we connected with recently who's out in Denver who runs a nonprofit called Made to Walk, and that's what kind of inspired this third
Oh,
goal.
cool.
But I think for now, yeah, well, let me just remove this third goal, and it's a nice note for later. But thank you, man. Yes,
Sorry, I
that
wasn't
was no, that was not completed correctly. Thank you for catching that. Okay. So this is really our goal for education. Becca, Manny, Greg, do you have any input or comments on improvements or other educational priorities we should have as a commission?
No, I think other than one other thing, just as far as education is concerned, is just utilizing the infrastructure that the city incorporates. Obviously we're incorporating a lot of new infrastructure around the city that, may not be known to the public. So I think, as part of that, being an arm of the city is, to have the commission kind of educate the public on it. I know, Manny, you had done a little bit of work with with the green pavement and the bike boxes. But as we kind of incorporate more around the city, we'll definitely need the commission to kind of help with educational videos and outreach and, even during your events as well, just to talk to the public. So I think that's just something else to keep in the back of your minds as part of the education portion of the commission.
I just had a question, Greg. So what would be a good example? Like, can you give me like an example of something that is kind of current that you're like, oh, it'd be really good to educate the public about this, or anything that's down the pipeline?
Yeah, so I think just it's you did the bike boxes already. That's a big one. I think also just utilize, even from a pedestrian perspective, just utilizing utilizing the pedestrian crossing signal, and how to use, because you see a lot of people, they don't utilize it. Like on West Avenue, we upgraded all those signals on West Avenue. With all the the new large flashing lights that say yield to pedestrians here, and just telling people and just reiterating to them and encouraging them to utilize that technology that's there, instead of just running across the street on a red light thinking that it's safe to do so.
Cool.
And just reminding people, and especially with educating the when you do the school out, coordinating with the schools as well, talking to the kids as well, and how they should utilize the technology as well. So just things like that. And anything new that the city incorporates, we'll definitely look to you guys to kind of help us out with that, to educate the public on that. Like I say, it could be something simple as that. So we're putting in also high visibility crosswalks. Just telling them stay in the crosswalk, don't just run across the street, and just think that you're safe, without pushing the button and staying within the crosswalk. Small things like that.
Cool. Thank you.
Becca, I see you have your hand raised too. Thank you, Manny.
Yeah,
Thank you,
Greg,
Greg.
forgive me if we got to this. I was getting off the train and lost the signal for a minute. But Greg, that was part of why I had put that little idea in about, like, what Emily and I were brainstorming is there a way that we can work with motorists? And the place we thought we could start was young motorists. So for example, if we figured out who is offering the driver's ed course at Brian McMahon and Norwalk High, because a huge part of this is educating motorists to look out for pedestrians and cyclists, especially if there are going to be more of them. So what are
Absolutely.
ways we can incorporate that? You know, for example, like this street has a bike lane, you know, you go into the turn lane at the dotted line and not sooner so that you don't impede the bike lane. You know,
Right.
stuff like looking both ways before turning on red and
Mhm. No,
stuff
absolutely.
like
It's part of the driver education portion as well. And, you know, that's something that's very important because, you know, let's face it, a lot of pedestrians are also motorists as well, you know, so they need to learn both and drivers need to learn, you know, to watch out for more cyclists and more pedestrians as we incorporate this infrastructure around the city and as it becomes more walkable as well. So it's definitely something that can be incorporated and, you know, even having, you know, also incorporating guest speakers to come in and organizing those type of events for, you know, for any and all ages and all roadway users. You know, holding a forum to have people and have the expert come in and talk and provide a, you know, an educational discussion with city residents. So everything falls under that realm of education that you guys can take on.
excellent. I just want to make sure that we're sort of emphasizing that it's everyone's job to keep
Yeah, no,
pedestrians and cyclists safe.
you're absolutely right. It's all roadway users for sure. Absolutely.
Definitely. And you just reminded me of a really good speaker we had. I want to say it was last year, and I don't think it was affiliated with the Bike Walk Commission, but Ben Granis with his Eyes Up campaign and teaching. It wasn't really teaching, but it was speaking to safe driving and no texting and driving. And he runs his own nonprofit, and he was a great speaker, and we got a lot of good content from him about that. So definitely either the DMV specialists, and I also love your idea, Greg, of having speakers either come on our Bike Walk Commission and talk, or just being able to circulate online speakers and educational materials that way. So thank you, Becca, and thank you, Greg. Okay, I think, is anything else for education? Can we take comments from the public, or yes, no, maybe on this?
I think it's up to you, Emily.
Oh, okay. I definitely want to hear from the public as well about our strategic plan and make sure we're aligned with our engaged users here. So if anyone from the public has any comments or opinions, please feel free to raise your hand at any time. Okay. Moving then on to communication and outreach, which kind of ties into the educational piece as well. Oh, the other thing here is for our commissioners, if there is, I know Christine's not online tonight, but I know I've talked to her and she is very interested about doing these things. I think Julia was out sick, so I don't know if she's on tonight's call. Sorry, I didn't even, no, I don't think she is. Oh, but Nick joined, thank you. Sorry, let me make note of that too. Nick Pappas has joined the call. But so I don't want to sign up. Sorry, the point I was trying to make is I'm not trying to sign up commissioners without their want to do so. So please speak up if you want to be on a category, or if you do see your name and don't want to be on a category, please let me know. So communication and outreach, we have a newsletter that we send out, an email, we have social media that we promote materials and circulate either documents from TMP or events that are happening. So our goal here is to continue doing that and to post that educational content that we're going to be creating or resharing or partnering on. And then continuing that goal, Manny, of having one short form video per quarter to circulate as well. And then our goal for this is to increase our follower engagement, really, and how we're connecting with our public here. The other goal here is developing bilingual content. So I know we work on having both English and Spanish available for our social posts. One question that did come up is like TMP materials. So the Complete Streets Design Guide, and this is really a question for you, Greg. Is there someone at the city, if we wanted to have a version of the Complete Streets Design Guide in Spanish, is that something that's possible at this time?
That we would have to probably go outsource that to get it translated, only because we couldn't have anybody internally in the city just translate it. It's a lot. So we'd have to, maybe we can talk with our consultant, who created it and see if they have any way to translate it. You know, because it is a long document and there's a lot of information in there. So once it becomes final, then you know, we'll have to talk and see how we move that forward, if it's something that the commission would like to do. Maybe there's a service that can do it for cheap and easy. I don't know. But it's just something that we'll have to explore. We haven't explored it yet.
Okay. So it sounds like it within TMP right now, there isn't someone that has the ability to have, or sorry, I didn't mean that. I mean, it at this time, we would have to outsource that request.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying we can't, we would have to have an outside service do it. It's not
Okay.
something we can do internally. I know for public meetings, when we need, you know, someone, a Spanish speaker, the city does have a list of employees in all departments throughout the city that, you know, could provide Spanish or Portuguese or any language that they would need. But as far as translating, you know, hundreds of pages of documents, that's not under the realm that could be done.
Okay. Tanner, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thanks. Just my 2 cents here is that it doesn't seem like translating the design guide into Spanish is like the highest and best use of resources. To me, it maybe is analogous to, would we translate the zoning code into Spanish, right? It's like hundreds of pages. It's a fairly technical document. It could be translated into Spanish, but it would require somebody who has you know, knowledge of technical translation, and it's a big lift. And I don't think we even do that for the zoning code or even like the city ordinances, right? I could be wrong here, but I'm not aware that we translate those into any other languages. And I would not expect us to translate, you know, a several hundred page technical document into another language. Now, to contrast that with stuff that is more public facing, right? That the design guide is available to the public, but its primary audience is not really the public. Its primary audience is city departments and developers, and they're going to, I think in every case, access it in English. So I doesn't seem like high priority to me.
Okay. Paul, I see you have your hand raised as well.
Craig, I would make sure, is there any federal dollars attached to this?
No, there's no federal dollars to this.
Ooh,
This was funding through the city.
Okay, that's good, that's good. I would still check with your Title VI liaison just to make sure,
Okay.
because you know how that goes, you know, one federal dollar, then you're like holding some federal rules.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you know, it's never been discussed before to translate it. And Tanner, you brought up a good point, you know, as far as other city ordinances are, you know, or codes are, you know, translated into Spanish. I don't know of, which I don't think it is, but it was just something we would have to delve into a little deeper to see, you know, if we need to make that happen.
Okay, great. And I'm really happy to report that Becca, our newest commissioner, also is a Spanish speaker. So now I think we have 3 members on our commission that are able to assist in this effort. Oh, Paul, I see your hands raised again. Is that? Okay. Anything from any other commissioners about communication and outreach or the public? Oh, Brad, I see you have your hand raised. Oh, Darlene, would you mind unmuting Brad Craighead? Oh, I think, yeah, you got Trace. Oh, there you go. Okay, Brad,
There we go. How's that?
I can hear you.
Great. Thanks very much. Maybe this isn't the right time to ask the question. I couldn't skip ahead through your agenda, but I think in terms of communication, what would be helpful to, I think, people like me in our association is what is TMP doing about their budget, and what are their priorities, and what's the progress of that, and how is that going to be communicated to the public? Maybe that's not within the bike walk commission's remit, but I'm wondering how one would get that information if you're not going to help facilitate the dissemination of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad. And I'm glad you brought that up actually, because it kind of leads into our next infrastructure and accessibility. But before I dive in, Greg, I don't know if you want to quickly respond to that.
Well, I didn't really plan for that because it's not on the agenda. So we'll have
Okay.
I'll have to follow up with an email.
Okay.
Someone was prepared for.
Okay, but so they're leading into the infrastructure and accessibility piece. I mentioned this in our last meeting, Greg, having the opportunity to meet quarterly with TMP and the Bike Walk Commission, because as we know, there are so many open projects, and yeah, it's hard to keep track of everything going on with one meeting, one meeting every month. So it's
Right.
the opportunity to kind of dive deeper into those logistics, and then kind of like Brad was mentioning, just having that information more available and either reiterated or just updated every so often to keep in the loop. And I hope that the Bike Walk Commission can be a resource there. So in this area, I know, Tanner, I would love to have your input on this too. Reviewing and providing advice on transportation and infrastructure for walking and biking in the city of Norwalk in collaboration with TMP. And that would be, a meeting with 2 commissioners maybe and the TMP team just to review any open projects, any feedback that we're getting from the public, and to keep that conversation going and then not overwhelming, on our official calls each month.
Yeah, I know it's something that would definitely save some time during the meetings, and not everybody is there every meeting. So I think I think we're something for 25. Let me just talk with the team and just see how we can set that up and see, availability wise and on your end and our end, and just see how we can, move that forward. And see how it would work out for everybody. And, I think you just lay out what you guys want to see from us and, what we, want to see for you guys. So I think it'd be a good, kind of intertwining of both of us to kind of figure out, future plans and going forward for the commission and with TMP as well. But let me have a conversation with Jim and see how we can get that into place, and how often we should meet.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Greg.
Mhm.
Tanner, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I wanted to speak to Brad's concern. I think if I understand Brad's concern, there's one or maybe 2 different concerns going on here, and the one that there's precedent for is the concern that there should be some way that the public can have some transparency into what TMP's budget is. And I think that like line item by line item, it does get published as part of the larger city budget. But in past years, I do remember somebody from TMP, I think on at least one occasion, it was Garrett who came, and in sometime during the budget season, maybe February plus or minus a month, and went kind of line by line and described what each project was. And I found that very helpful, and I think that addresses a lot of what Brad is talking about. So I don't think that it's unreasonable to request that TMP continues to do that, because they've been willing to do it in the past. The other part that I might be reading too much into this, but the other thing that I think Brad may have been speaking to is the desire for the Bike Walk Commission to give feedback and have input onto TMP's budget. That really is up to TMP as to whether they want our feedback on their budget. But at the very least, I think it's reasonable for us to request that they present it to us and give us a chance to ask questions and get clarity on it. So that's all.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank you
I know
for
we
that.
have done it in the past. You are right. So let me have a conversation, because I know the budget is still evolving. And just also keep in mind the Common Council is the one who ultimately approves the budget requests.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, to be more clear about that, what I remember Garrett coming and going through was TMP's budget request, right? All the different items that they were requesting, and ultimately the Common Council decides which they're going to fund and which they're not, and that's not up to TMP.
Correct. Yeah, that's because the Common Council decides that.
Great. So I will follow up with you, Greg, about setting up potential meetings with TMP quarterly.
Yeah,
then having
quarterly,
a-
and then we'll talk about potentially for February. We'll see where the budget's at and we'll discuss, see if we can have, I don't know if it's easier to have during the monthly meeting, talk about it, or if it's easier to talk at the quarterly meeting.
So
So,
the quarterly meeting that Emily's describing would not be a public meeting, right? It would just be a few members of
Correct.
TMP and a few commissioners.
Correct.
I think there's value in doing it during the public meeting, so the public has access to it and there's a transcription of it. And that's what we've done in the past. So if TMP's continues to be willing to do that, then I think that would be that's my preference at least.
all right, let me check, and Emily, we'll figure that out sooner rather than later. Before February's meeting, and we'll get it on the agenda if it's ready to be presented. Then yeah, we'll keep you
Perfect.
posted on that.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you, Tanner. Okay. And the next one for infrastructure and accessibility, we're so excited for the Complete Streets Design Guide that is out. So I know part of that too is that there's a committee and we will have a representative from the Bike Walk Commission submitted on that committee. And I know, Tanner, you expressed interest in that position. So I do have you as an owner here. I don't remember when it will be formed, but I know we're still submitting feedback as well, or the public, excuse me, is still submitting feedback by 111.
Yeah, I would be curious to know if Greg has any more details about what that process is going to look like. If I recall, when the ordinance was approved, the ordinance provided for the design guide to be subject to approval by the Complete Streets Committee. Like essentially the first job of the Complete Streets Committee would be to vote on the design guide. Is that also your understanding, Greg? And if so, do you know like if there is a plan for when they're going to convene?
Not off the top of my head right now. Right now, we're just, it's open comment period. So we're just looking to get all the comments from the public. You can submit comments, email or in person. So we're really just getting all those comments in right now, to review it and get the design guide finalized. And then that next step will be forming of the committee. But we'll have to, look at what the ordinance was written as it was written for the actual committee itself, which I don't recall off the top of my head, when that's going to actually be formed. But that will be forthcoming.
Okay. Would you say, would we have information by the time of our next meeting in February about that?
I would think so. Yeah, I would think we would have, move that forward, but don't hold me to it just in case.
Okay.
Because right now it's really just getting the design guide finalized. So that's what we're prioritizing right now is collecting all public comment and to review all comments, and then get the design guide to 100%.
Perfect. Thank you, Greg.
Mhm.
Okay. Becca, I also have you on this because I know you expressed interest in participating there. So I have you and Tanner as owners on that. The last one I have here, and this is really up for discussion, and I know we've talked about it before, and Tanner, you led an initiative for us to all review this pedestrian and bikeway transportation plan for those attending that may not have seen this document before. It's at this point a little outdated. It's from 2012, and part of our commission initiative was to review the document and make improvements. And I know it's been an ongoing process, and we have records of updates. And Tanner, you've put together a document, and there was another one from before with Nancy. And so I wanted to revisit that conversation about prioritizing this for this year and who would be interested in leading that, because it is also, again, like a very long document that needs a lot of updating. Tanner, I would love to hear from you because I know you left off on this one.
Yeah. So I reviewed the whole plan, and I think that because I wasn't at the last meeting, my name got put on basically nothing, which I appreciate. But because of that, I feel like I do have the room where I think you could put my name on this, and I could own this. For everyone's context, my term expires at the end of June this year, and it's not clear that I'm going to request to be reappointed for various reasons. So, but I'm here for the next 6 months at the very least. So owning a couple of things like this one and the one above, I think makes sense. But obviously, if people are interested in working with me on this, and in particular, if somebody has a vision of, what you want to do with the existing plan, and especially what you want to propose for going forward, like I'd love to talk to you about it. So hit me up.
But I have read most of the document, admittedly not all of it, but I would like to work with you on this because I know this is an ongoing goal and part of our ordinance. So this is important to me as well. Are there any other commissioners interested in reviewing and updating this document?
I could jump on this too, Emily.
Okay, thank you, Becca.
Yeah, Rebecca, I'd love to have your input. Just to add a little more clarity here. Basically, this was written 10 years ago, and it was the product of a project by a third-party consultant that worked with the city to flesh out like a kind of a comprehensive short and long-term plan for pedestrian facilities and bike facilities. And it included a bunch of very like concrete recommendations on on the order of a dozen different streets. And so I've been going through and reviewing those streets and those recommendations at a more granular level. Ultimately, what I would like to come away with is a recommendation of like, is this document still useful to the city, or should it be just like amended to continue to use it and get value out of it, or is it time to like start fresh and do a new plan? I don't have a determination on that yet, but like one of the potential outcomes is that we go to the city and say, hey, I think we should pay a consultant to do this again because it's been long enough. But I would need to go through and review it more, and probably set up meetings with TMP to get their take on that question and any related sub questions. But that's the kind of work that we're talking about.
Thank you for the reference there, Tanner. Perfect.
Mhm.
So then I would say, yeah, I hope this is in our agenda, but it kind of ties into our conversation around budget today too, because I know that's also what we'll be looking at today and reviewing where we're going to allocate that budget. So if it is something where we have budget to spend on a consultant and we get far enough along that this is plausible, that would be nice. But I think again, communication with TMP here is critical, and if we can get that meeting set up and their team on board with this too, because it ties into the Complete Streets Guide a lot and other work that's going on actively on their end. Okay. Any last thoughts on infrastructure and accessibility goals for us from either commissioners or the public?
Well, can I ask Greg about this point?
Yep.
Greg, has the transportation master, not the transportation master plan, although that's also a good question. The bike ped master plan, has that come up in discussions in TMP in the last few months as to like what your department thinks is the future of that document and how much use you're
Not
getting
not the bike ped plan, no, that is not.
But the transportation master plan presumably has, because that's been in draft form now for like 2 years, right?
Yeah, that just has to get finalized, but the draft is finalized. It just has to move toward formal adoption.
Do you have a timeline for that?
Not at the moment, no. Not at the moment.
Are you waiting on anything particular? Are you waiting on Complete Streets before moving on that?
No, it's just we've been doing a lot of work with Complete Streets Design Guide. We've been stretched very thin, and we're working to get a lot of projects done, and we have grants. Not to say that the master plan is important, that it's finalized. We just have to go for formal adoption. So that's the next step. And I know I've been saying it, but it's something that we are moving forward with, and the draft is available. And the draft is finalized based on the latest public comments that we've received. So now it's just formal adoption at this point.
Thanks.
Okay. Is there anything that the Bike Walk Commission can do to support that formal adoption or spread awareness? Or
we'll let you know once we move forward for committee and council approval. So once we get that date on the calendar, we'll let you guys know. We've just been doing a lot of our work has been on Complete Streets for the design guide, and also with these grant programs which does have a ticking clock for a lot of the funding that we received. So we've been pushing hard on those as well.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, and then if there are no other comments or questions on this section, I will move on to events, which is another primary goal of ours since we got these very nice bike valet racks. We'll continue our goal from last year of providing bike valet for community events. Nick Pappas has been leading this effort, so thank you for your contributions, Nick. Greg, I put you on here as well, just in our conversations around the insurance coverage, if, having you assisting us with that, with the communication between the city and vendors, I think that would be really helpful. So if you're open to being a point of contact here, that would be great.
Yeah, as long as just give me time, the more
Yeah.
time you give me, the better. Because then I have to wait for other people to give us, the items. So I don't want to rush them. So the more we plan ahead, the better.
Definitely. And I put, in advance, logistical needs in advance on there to make sure, we do this before needed. And so we should already start talking about Earth Day, which is coming up and so exciting. But
Be here right before you know it.
yeah, it always does. And I love it. So we came up with some possible events. Our goal is 4, but we can go beyond if we see fit or if we have the bandwidth and our lovely volunteers who we depend on to help run it efficiently. I underlined Earth Day and Nice Festival because those were the 2 we did last year. So I would continue to want to do that again this year. And then we added a few more like the Sono Arts Fest, Pride in the Park, Oyster Festival we talked about, and then things like the Halloween Night Fair and the Wall Street Wonderland. And Becca made a really good suggestion that we diversify the areas of Norwalk that we're doing this in. So we're not just all focused in South Norwalk. So are there any other events that commissioners would want to see on here or any suggestions or edits to this goal?
I've never attended the film festival, but I'm curious. I know, but it's also in winter, so I don't know. But I just was, perked my curiosity.
I think I did see a nice ad in the Sono Mall about the film festival. It's this weekend, I think, or the 10th coming up.
Yeah, it's this week.
Yeah. It's a little last minute, but for next year,
No,
Manny,
for next
I'm
year.
all
No,
game.
I meant for next year, for 2026.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, I would love to see that for 2026. Maybe we can, get in touch with
I
them.
think the first thing we should do is somebody should attend so that we get an idea of how we might participate next time around. It's not immediately clear to me how we would get involved. Right? I don't know if there's any a tabling opportunity.
Do we have anyone on our commission that's planning on attending the Norwalk Film Festival?
I might. It all depends on other factors, but I'm definitely looking at their program because I would like to attend.
Excellent. Will you let us know if you do? I actually had connected with Justin Matley at the Norwalk Film Festival. Oh my gosh, I want to say a couple years ago now, but it's a lovely group. So I would really encourage us to get involved with them. So thank you, Manny. That's a really good suggestion. And then I guess second to that too, this goal came from, I believe Christine wanted us to also prioritize underrepresented community groups. And I'm very happy to share, we've connected with Filling in the Blanks recently, and they have it's second Saturday of the month food distribution at the Sono School. So I'm hoping to use that as an example to engage with those community groups. Also, to that, we talked about potentially doing another bike repair pop-up or a clinic, something like that. And I know, Tanner, in the past, you initiated this with previous commissioner Sam and did bike repair pop-ups at Ryan Park during the summer. Yeah, do you want to talk about that?
So it was really me supporting Sam. Sam had a lot of experience with bike mechanics, and so I kind of we would just go, the two of us, and Sam also owned a bunch of tools, and we would set up just like a little pop-up tent and a couple tables and a couple bike stands in the park. We advertised it on social media under the name Norwalk Bicycle Co-op, and it wasn't strictly a commission thing, but like obviously we were both commissioners, so it was kind of a partnership there, I guess. But since Sam moved away, it's been tough. I have tried a little bit in his absence to find mechanics to kind of fill the big shoes that Sam left. I'm not enough of an experienced mechanic to run this on my own, and also I have had too many commitments that even if I did, I don't know that I would have run it on my own. But yeah, the limiting factor here is qualified mechanics, number one, and then number two is somebody to organize them, right? But essentially, it's a question of finding the mechanics and then organizing an event, promoting it, and lining up at least one or two mechanics who can be there at the time. And that just hasn't ever succeeded, basically, since Sam left. I guess I should give credit to Phil Kiaya. Phil's been on our calls before. Phil did step in for a time, and we did have some events that were moderately successful, but I think Phil also got too busy. So it's not without trying, but it has been tough to keep it going.
I'm excited to share too, and I know when we get into budget, we'll talk about this, but in our last Open Street event, when we were looking for bike mechanics, I ended up calling a lot of bike shops in the areas, and they were very interested in getting involved with us. So this year, if we do have budget to pay, technicians from bike shops to come and assist, I mean, that would be another opportunity to partner with local organizations, and then at least have a certified, mechanic available to do these effectively. So I think that's something we can build on hopefully this year, whether it is bike pop-ups or just participating in organizations in the area or events in the area, excuse me. Tanner, go ahead.
When I was reading through the notes from last month, I saw something to the effect of that this came up in your conversation with the mayor, and that the mayor expressed interest in this.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any more detail there? Like, did the mayor talk about any particular way that he wants to see this operate, or any particular city resources that could be deployed besides the bike walk budget?
That's a good question. Nick, let me know if there's anything else to add. But when we talked about it, it really was, I mentioned our previous our previous efforts in the bike repair pop-ups that you and Sam and Phil had done, and the bike repair clinics came up in conversation around the safety courses that we were doing. So again, I'm enabling bike users or people without bikes to have the opportunity to ride them and repair them if they're broken. But the other thing I wanted to mention was the bike giveaway was the other priority, which is further down. But Nick, yeah, was there anything else around the bike repair pop-up?
I think that was pretty high level that he brought it up.
Yeah.
Okay, so he would like to see it happen, but didn't have any particular prescriptive way to do it.
Right.
This is reminding me that I did have a conversation. It was just one conversation with Rob Stowers from Parks. When he showed me a while ago the plans for the rec center that was to be built at Ryan Park, and we discussed, like, would it be feasible for an independent group, a community group like the bike co-op, to store tools there and potentially to store parts and to store bicycles. And he seemed open to the idea. That doesn't solve the problem, though, of like, we need the people, right? We need the people in the organization. But it might be worth revisiting that, because if that's still an option, it might make it that much easier to attract people to be part of such an organization.
Definitely. Oh, thank you. Becca, I see you have your hand raised as well.
I wonder if there are any organizations much, not on such a formal level as League certified, but is there any way that one of us could get trained in bike repair? I mean, these are skills that I would find useful in my own life too, but also, like, there's instructional videos online. For example, a lot of the trails I've ridden, there's a QR code you can scan and watch videos on how to patch a flat, how to, lube your chain, like really sort of basic bike repair stuff that you would hope most cyclists know how to do. But again, like, if we can create that skill set from within, then that doesn't become a linchpin anymore.
That's a good point. But when Sam and I put this together, we called ourselves the Norwalk Bicycle Co-op because it's common in other cities. For example, in New Haven, there's one of these for an entire bike shop to be nonprofit and to operate kind of for the public good like this. The one in New Haven is called the Bradley Street Bike Co-op, and they might even teach classes like this. I know that it's common for bicycle co-ops or bike collectives, as they're sometimes called, to teach classes. I'm on their website now and checking.
That's a good idea. The other thing I wanted to mention too was Nick had suggested these bike repair clinics. You had seen one at a farmer's market, I think you mentioned, and I thought that was another good opportunity to engage with, local groups. If we did have either a table or the opportunity to repair bikes at those, encouraging more people to bike to farmers markets. I know Rowayton's a pretty hot spot for that, at Picnic Park. So things like that would be nice to see all around Norwalk and not just in Rowayton.
It's unfortunate that the Wednesday farmers market, which is at the Norwalk Community Health Center, is so difficult to access because it's on Connecticut Avenue,
Mhm.
Because that feels like a place that ties in with, our presence, with fitness, with cycling towards healthy lifestyle. So it'd be great to try to tap that one too, but again, it might be challenging logistically.
Definitely. Yep. Brad, I see you have your hand raised. Would you like to add anything?
Hi, no, I just wanted to mention that the farmer's market on the green is seasonal, but that's April through October, which is totally fitting with your, agenda of doing bike repair and facilitating that.
Excellent. Hi, Theo.
He's announced
Tanner's
his presence.
cat.
Here he is.
Yeah,
He won't leave me alone.
cutie. Okay, perfect. So I feel like this goal will be very achievable, and thank you, Brad, for the suggestion there. I've been to that farmers market; it's great. So that would be really nice to see there. And Becca, thank you for the suggestion of getting one of our commissioners trained. I think that's another good opportunity to do something like that. Anything else before I move on to grants and recognition from the public or from our commissioners?
Yeah, one more thought. There's another group that's I think based out of Stanford, that it's kind of similar to the Bradley Street Co-op in New Haven, but they don't have a space. I think it's just like one guy or maybe a couple people who regularly take donations and then of like broken bikes, fix them up and then donate them, I think mostly to kids in need. So partnering, the name of that organization escapes me right now, but I bet I could find it and I bet other people could find it just on Google. But potentially we could partner with somebody like that, either to run an event or even to teach a class. And maybe that's another use we could make of our budget, is to hire somebody to teach such a class.
Excellent. Tanner, I'm going to put you as an owner on this one per your suggestion here. I think that would be great.
I appreciate the thought. I can participate in an advisory role here, but I don't think that I can be an owner.
Okay, I will have you at the end of the list as a partial owner here.
Okay.
But if you can make that connection, I think that's really just what I'm getting at. If you want to.
I mean, I've never spoken to these people. I've just been on the website before.
Oh, okay. However you can help would be great. Okay. Grants and recognition. So our goal here, secure 2 grants for non-infrastructure projects. We went through and started to identify some potential grants here. And I see you left a comment here, Tanner, as well. Again, I know last year we were very lucky. We applied again for this grant and we did receive some money from the active transportation grant, micro grant. So we want to continue to look for and apply to grants like that. And then I have myself, Nick, and Christine on this one. It's a little more broad strokes just because, I don't know what we will be applying for, but if there are opportunities for us to research and apply for more, that's kind of what my goal would be here. I guess, Greg, I would look for your input here as well. If this seems like a realistic goal, or if there's maybe a grant that you know of or TMP knows of, or assistance that we can offer to TMP. Again, I know none of us are grant writers, but if there was anything else that the Bike Walk Commission could do to support this sort of effort.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, did a lot of work with the active transportation micro grant. Because the grants are very time consuming. Even the recreational trails grant that you guys are working on now, even that's a heavy lift. Unfortunately, they only get larger from there. But new grant programs come out all the time, so our recommendation is always just keep your eye out for grants, and if you see them, just see them and you think it's something that it's worth for the Bike Walk Commission, then go for it. Especially for a lot of private organizations. Well, unfortunately, you guys are part of the city, so it would have to come from the city because you are an arm of the city. But yeah, just keep an eye out for any new grants for non-infrastructure related projects that would be beneficial to the commission, something that it's doable for the commission to take on, because it is a lot.
Oh, Becca, I see you have your hand raised.
I wonder, and this comes from my inexperience in sort of this part of the field, but it seems to me that the sort of the order that this makes sense in my head is that you have an idea and then you go seek funding. And do we just have to seek funding, then have an idea because of the nature of these programs, because of their deadlines, et cetera? If that makes sense.
Oh, sorry,
Can
was
I-
there a question?
I can weigh in on that. I think it's kind of a chicken and egg problem. Like an idea that needs funding is no good until it has the funding, but also a grant application opportunity is no good if you don't have any ideas. So I think having a list of ideas on deck is good, and then constantly monitoring for grant opportunities, and then like matching the one against the other is at least that's my impression of how TMP does these things.
Thanks, that helped.
Thank you, Becca. Thank you, Tanner. And then the second goal here for recognition is achieving bronze bicycle friendly community status. I know based on our report card and our application from 2023, there's a lot of opportunity for improvement here. And I think already we've checked off some of these boxes, but it would involve a process of resubmitting the application, which is pretty long and as Tanner and Ben Handpater know, an arduous process. So I do have it here as a goal. And I would, again, love to be more involved with TMP in this application. And I know, Greg, that your bandwidth is very thin, but if there were maybe a representative from TMP that could help and we could create some sort of subcommittee to continually in smaller chunks review and continue this application, whether it's for this year or next year. In looking at the process with Nick Pappas, it looks like they haven't announced the deadline yet for this year, but it would be in June, which is already 6 months away. So I'm not trying to create chaos. I definitely want to make this a process where if we submit the application, we will achieve this next status. So I just wanted to put this out there and see kind of what our commission feels would be plausible, and also with you, Greg, and TMP's support to get this done. Tanner, I guess, go ahead.
Yeah, I just pulled it up. There is a definitive deadline now. It's June 25th, 2025.
Okay.
I just found that. I'm under the impression that the bulk of the work in filling this out has already been done. Like the fact that we've done it once makes every subsequent application easier, at least to the extent that they don't change the application that much. They're going to change it a little bit every year, but my guess is the application will be at least 80% the same, and that our answers will be maybe 70 to 80% the same. So while it will be work, it won't be as much work as it was the first time. This is also something that I would be willing to help with and potentially even drive if, I guess, provided that the TMP is on board with the idea that it's worth submitting. I think when this came around last time, we got a pretty strong signal from TMP that they didn't think that it was worth submitting again because not enough time had elapsed. Greg, is that still the case, or do you think that enough time now has passed that it's worth going for again?
The one thing about having a June deadline is that's right in the middle of construction season. So obviously complete streets, we have the ordinance and the design guide is in play right now. but a lot of the infrastructure improvements, for the 2025 year haven't been completed yet. So, we also have to look at staff time. Right now, we are going as fast as we can with the projects that we have. I understand that the application could be the same and carried over a lot. I get it, but we are stretched very thin in TMP right now, especially with 2 positions open right now. We don't have a traffic analyst right now. Kyle took on a lot of that bulk last time for the application. I don't know if the application has changed at all. I'm not sure, but I can't guarantee that we're going to be able to do this for June. And I don't know if that's the right time to do it, like I said, because in the middle of construction season, I don't think we can say that something has been completed when it's in the middle of construction. So keep that in mind as well. And if we're going to apply for something, we want to make sure we're putting forward the best that the city offers. And it's different because if we spend all that time applying again and get the same score, it wasn't worth it. We want to make sure we made a measurable difference in our application from before.
I agree. And part of that was getting another LEAK certified instructor above, and that wouldn't happen until April. And there's a few other things. And then I also put a link here to the process of reapplying, which didn't seem to be the same as applying again. There was some interesting points there, but I guess for this then, Tanner, if you would be willing to lead this, it sounds like it may make sense to have a 2026 application, but then still form, the opportunity to have a subcommittee filling out this application. To your point, because you've done it once already, a lot of the work is completed, but it looks like there is a process for the reapplication of certain things. So Tanner, knowing that we may not submit this year, but submit next year, would you still be open to owning this?
I wouldn't be open to owning something that we're going to submit in 2026. But if we decide to go for the June 25th date, I would be happy to own that. And I'm also happy to own it until then, like the decision as to whether to go for it.
Okay, Becca?
What measurable 2 questions. One is Bicycle Friendly Community awarded annually? Like, does ours expire essentially?
To my understanding, no.
Go ahead, Emily.
I was just going to say, to my understanding, no, it doesn't expire, but we remain until we either apply again or maybe there is an expire. I don't know. Actually, Tanner, you may know.
Yeah, my impression is that your award is linked to the year that you got it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we won't be included in the list of 2024 bike-friendly communities. Only the communities that received the award that year are included in that list. But if you go on the database, can I share my screen? I think I can. Emily, do you mind standing down for a sec? Maybe? Yes. Yes. Okay. If you click on Connecticut, it says 11 bicycle-friendly communities. I think that includes communities that have earned it in any year. So in this sense, it does count. But the award is tied to a certain year. So yes and no. Oh, here we are. Well, I guess we were recognized with an honorable mention last time, so it wouldn't even show up in this list.
All right. Then to that, my follow-up question would be, and maybe this is a question that maybe regardless of submitting, we just need sort of a bike-friendly community accountability subcommittee, right? Because my question would be what can we point to that currently makes us more bike-friendly than we were when we submitted? Because until we have a good answer to that, it's a lot of legwork, like Greg's saying.
The biggest one that comes to mind for me is the passage of complete streets. I think that Greg raised that in particular last time we had this discussion to say complete streets is still in flight. We should wait until complete streets is done. And by June, the design guide should be ratified. It should be long ratified.
Yeah, so we'll have paper, but we won't have we won't necessarily have quantifiably completer streets. And I feel-
Yes, but we get credit for all sorts of different things, including policy. In fact, policy is a big section of the application. If you're
Absolutely.
interested
I'm
in
thinking about it
setting
from
some
an
time, I could go through
yeah, I'll
the
take it.
application with you.
I'll
and
take
just,
into
like,
this. I'll totally take into it. I'm just thinking from like from an optics perspective, right? Like, you know, if we get bronze and then there's pictures of streets with no bike lanes when people Google Norwalk, you know, what have we gained?
I mean, the bar for bronze is, you know, all things considered, pretty low. I wouldn't be surprised if we went for bronze and got it this time, but you know, I'm not that familiar with the program, but I do know that there's, you know, I'm still sharing my screen, right? There's like 8 different cities on here in Connecticut that are listed as bronze, and I don't know that any of them are far ahead of Norwalk.
Okay, so I'm hearing majority thinks that we can submit this 2025 application.
Well, that's not what I'm saying. It seems to me like the biggest question is, will there be a new Kyle before we need to submit? Because Kyle was the one who took on the most work. In particular, there's a part of the application that requires running some queries against the city's GIS database and like counting the number of miles of different kinds of bike infrastructure. And that's not something I can do, and that's something Kyle did last time. And so if there isn't another Kyle by the time this deadline passes, I think the answer is a no.
But also keep in mind too, the bandwidth of our department as well. We're in the middle of construction season. There's many other things. We have grants that we have to spend. It's not, we can't just move this to the front of the line and push everything to the back.
Yeah, I understand. I'm not saying that if there's a new Kyle, the answer is yes. I'm just
So-
saying that that's disqualifying if we don't have one. And when I say new Kyle, I mean new traffic analyst for those following along at home.
I feel that it's to our benefit to apply, but I definitely want to be in good standing and I want to give a proper application, even if it's 6 months away. But I think I'm leaning towards leaving this goal as is, as 2025, and then if we aren't able to get there, just because of what we've talked about, the Complete Streets Guide coming out, all these improvements that TMP's done in the past, the potential of having bike safety courses running and another league certified instructor, it really kind of sets us up to get bronze status. And if it is something where we have 80% of the application done, but then there is a lift from TMP. But to your point, Greg, we don't know who that person to be able, or if there is a person able to assist us with that bandwidth right now. It would be confirming what exactly is needed from TMP and just getting ahead of it. Do you feel like, Greg, would this, if the bike walk pushed it and Tanner led it, would we be able to do this application this year?
Honestly, I don't even remember the full application. Seen a lot of applications lately for grants, and so I'd have to look through this one. It's been some time, but I just remember there was a lot of, from what I do recall, there was a lot of granular data that needed to go into this, and I'm sure they want it refreshed and new, and we can't just utilize the old. You know, they also want, you know, infrastructure that was incorporated, you know. So a lot goes into it, and it's a lot also on commission as well, on top of the city. So I just want to keep that in mind. Because, you know, we want to apply for it, we want to get better than we did last time, you know.
Right.
So that's all I'm saying in this. So I think the commission should just relook at the application and see what we've upgraded since then, where we haven't, and kind of check the boxes to show, yeah, we have, no, we haven't, and see if there's a sizable difference between then and now.
Okay.
Emily, here's what I'll say. I think it's worth the commission doing the parts that the commission can do before the June deadline. I think even if we don't end up submitting it, because that gives us a snapshot that then makes the next time we fill it out that much easier. Because it means the delta between where we were at and where we're then at is smaller. I recall that the only like serious piece of work that we ended up asking from TMP is that those queries that I was talking about. I don't remember. I remember like little questions here and there that we had to ask, but The only major thing was that. So I would say Bike Walk Commission should agree or should set a goal to do our part. And if TMP ends up having the bandwidth to do whatever we need them to do, whether it's just those queries or something else that is part of the application, then we submit it. And if not, I think it's still worth it as a checkpoint for the commission.
Okay. Would it be possible if you created a subcommittee to focus on this application that included you, Becca, and Nick? I think mentioned he's interested in helping this as well. Nick, speak up if you disagree. But for the application and getting it done, would you? I'm so sorry, I just totally lost my train of thought. The
Yeah,
February.
I'll take on a subcommittee here.
Okay. Oh, but sorry, I was getting at, we want to give TMP enough lead time to be able to review the application, knowing their bandwidth, knowing construction's in June. Can we have that done by like February or March potentially? Just our part of the application in that committee and having it
How
in
about this?
TMP's plate by March or something like that.
In the February meeting, but by the time we come back to our next meeting in February, I will have read through the 2025 application and come up with a summary of the work that would need to be done on the commission side and the work that would need to be done on the TMP side. Because at that point, if we estimate the work that TMP would need to do, and we can maybe get an indication that they know that they're not going to get to it, and then we can just drop it.
Okay. Perfect. I think that's a good goal. It doesn't mean that we're going to complete it, but I think that's a good goal for us. Excellent. Oh, you're sharing your screen, Tanner. Do you mind if I take back
yep.
the screen?
Go for it.
Sorry, Tanner. Thank you, Tanner. And thank you, Greg. I know I don't want to ask too much of you or assign any of this to you, but it's critical. I think we have this open line of communication with TMP, especially understanding your bandwidth and schedules and budget and whatnot. Okay. I know we're running over time a little bit, but so this next section here, Manny, this is really for our coordination of events with this Norwalk Public School. And then we also do Bike to Work Week events, but it's really to encourage more Norwalkers and bikers to be biking in Norwalk. So we had a really, I feel, very successful Walk, Bike, Roll to School event last year in October with several schools, and I would love to build on that and continue doing that with not only from our Bike Walk Commission, from Jalea with the health department, Joanna, Jill from the Norwalk Public Schools, and Brianna. It was amazing, and I want to continue to do that. So if you're open to being an owner and leading that, that would be great. Excellent. Any notes or suggestions? I know, Becca, you mentioned Marvin School and Nathan Hale. In the past, they've done Bike Walk Roll to School. I would love the Bike Walk Commission to, find opportunities to work with them on promoting it and safe routes and more alignments in that area. And then the second goal I have here is to co-host a Bike to Work Week event with our local businesses and transit hubs. Tanner, I think it was 2 years ago, we had a Bike to Work Week events like throughout the week, and we were around for commuters, bikers at the train stations, on Washington Street, like where, we find heavy cyclists, and handed out just breakfast or promos to people riding their bikes for Bike Month and Bike to Work Week. So I would love to continue doing that again. Okay, if there are no questions or comments on those, the last item here, accountability and reporting. The one other thing, oh, Manny, go ahead, sorry.
Sorry, I'd like to be added to the Bike to Work events.
Thank you. Yeah. Excellent. Okay, and then accountability and reporting. We'll have a quarterly check-in on our progress for our strategic plans, and I'll just make sure to bring that up in our meetings in March, June, September, and December. And then our annual report. Last year, Nick and I went and met with the mayor. I know in the past there's been presentations, so I added that in here. I would love feedback from the commission and Greg, if that was something that would be helpful, just on like a breakdown of what the commission's accomplished and our activities and things like that. Is that something that we should be presenting in our meeting here or to the Common Council on public forum, or is it something we submit via email? Oh, Tanner, go ahead.
So I raised this question to Josh Goldstein on the council several months ago, because I owned this last year on our strategic plan. I think that the committee assignments have now been reshuffled, but at the time he was the chair of the Economic and Community Development Committee, which is where all the TMP business goes through. So he was kind of the right point of contact. He said that what he would prefer is for us to compile a written progress report for the year and then send that to him. And then once he received that he would schedule us to do a presentation to his committee. So the first order of business, I think, is to prepare a written report. I think I took that on, but I dropped the ball and I never ended up doing it. I have notes, and I think I shared the notes with you and with Christine. But no, don't put me on there yet. I haven't agreed to it yet. I'm just filling you on the history. But yes, I did compile a, just not a very like clean, but a somewhat comprehensive list of like a bunch of different stuff that the committee had done, not just in the year 2024, but also in previous years.
Great. Thank you, Tanner. Yeah, that's really helpful. If you would be open, to working with me on that. I have Nick's name on here too, because he's been very helpful with this as well. So
I'm happy to be a resource. I'm happy to even join meetings and have you pick my brain. But I don't have the bandwidth to drive that.
okay, I won't put you as an owner, but thank you for helping. And that is it here. I would like to get Christine and Judd on just reviewing this before we approve it, but I feel confident that this is aligned with our ordinance and our mission, and I think we have a really good team of commissioners here ready to fill this out. So with that, any last comments or questions from commissioners or the public on our strategic plan for 2025? Okay. I can't believe it's already 7:20, but the good news is we've already talked about the upcoming 2025 events. That was on our new business. The commission partnerships with local organizations like Filling in the Blanks. We talked about that in our last meeting. I mentioned it in our strategic plan. I have to set a follow-up with Paula and the other gentleman that was a representative of that community, but they've already started. They do the second Saturday of every month. And I hope to coordinate at least the Bike Walk Commission to have a table there. So is there another commissioner that would be open to being on that meeting with me or talking to these representatives with Filling in the Blanks?
Can you repeat that again? I'm sorry. I was. Can you
No
repeat that
worries, Manny.
question?
I was hoping it would be you too. No worries. Now that you've spoken, on our agenda item here, the partnership with Filling in the Blanks, having a table at one of their events they do on the second Saturday of every month at the Sono School. It's just coordinating and seeing where the Bike Walk Commission can step in and have a table and engage with the community that comes to these events that they host.
Yeah, I'd love to be a part of that conversation.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. And then on our last meeting too, we had a representative from the transit district come and talk about the bus shelter. So I feel like this might have been a little overlap. But the other agenda item on here, Greg, that I want to see, I don't know if, oh, here it is. A discussion on our expenditures. But before we get into that, addressing the Complete Streets Design Guide public comment period. Greg, do you want to speak to this document here quickly?
No, it was really just a reminder to everyone, because it will, the 30 days, it started on December 12th, so it's going to end on January the 11th. So I just want to make sure that everybody is aware. You can provide comments through email to completestreets@norwalkct.gov, or you can go into the city clerk's office and submit comment there as well, written comment if you feel that's best. But we've been getting some comments from the public, so keep spreading the word. And if any of you have any comments as well, I know Emily provided some, but please, continue to spread the word and provide comment for the design guide.
Excellent. Thank you, Greg. Yeah, this looks really great, and we're circulating this online too. I have seen public comment come in. I've seen social media comments as well. I know those aren't being taken into account, so anything that gets emailed or submitted is public comment. So I encourage people to continue to do that.
Mhm.
Tanner, go ahead.
Yeah, quick question for Greg. The 11th is a Saturday. Will you also be taking comment that gets emailed in on Sunday? I don't imagine that anybody is working Saturday or Sunday.
Well, look, the ordinance just says 30 days from the release of December 12th. So if you can get it in before the 30 days, just get it in prior to, because it did say the ordinance did call for just 30 days.
So will you be dropping stuff that came in on Sunday?
I don't want to speak because it is a written ordinance, Tanner. So that's more of a question for the law department because it's a written ordinance, like I said. But if you can get it in beforehand, please submit it beforehand.
Okay.
I don't want to speak for an ordinance that was passed by the common council.
I know the text of the ordinance. I'm wondering in practice because your department's.
No, I know, I get it, but again, we haven't had that conversation. If something comes in a minute after, what happens? So if you can get your comments in before, get it in before. Don't wait until the 11th hour.
Don't submit it on midnight, January 12th.
Yeah, just send it in. If you're looking at the design guide on Saturday night at 11:59, I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, thank you, Craig. And then the last item here is our budget, and I'm happy to share that we put together a spreadsheet with suggestions, and thank you to the commissioners who contributed here. So we have budget to spend by June, and we have put together some suggestions on where we can approve and start spending budget. Again, I don't know if we have a quorum or do we, but if either way, I asked the commissioners in our last meeting to put together some ideas for what to spend on this fiscal year with our remaining budget. And in addition to this, also with the grant we won, we have additional budget to spend here. This is the breakdown of what we received from our grant. So now we have more allocated budget for bike helmets, for bike locks, for the league certified instructor training, and the brochures and special permit events. This, I imagine, would apply really nicely to our bicycle safety courses if we're able to get those up and running. So that's, again, why that's a priority and a goal for us. With that said, looking at this budget and these proposed items, I don't necessarily want to vote on anything right now. Aside from Darlene taking minutes, I would love to get that approved because we appreciate her so much. But some ideas that are on here that we talked about would be additional swag like water bottles or drawstring bags, food for events like the Bike to Work Week or the Bike Walk Roll to School events. Tail lights and headlights, those were a great hit, especially at the Bike Walk Roll to School events with the kids coming in on bikes, giving out those were really good to see, especially because I feel like a lot of them didn't even have lights on their bikes. So that was a good investment, I think, on our end and a handout for engaged bikers in the area. The other thing that we talked about, and this came from a suggestion from the mayor who mentioned that there were bike giveaways in the past. In December, they had, and I think it was maybe through the police department, donated bikes to, or they had like a bike giveaway. And Nick, please chime in if I'm not saying this correctly, but what our thought was here was if we put down some of our budget to buy a bike, maybe through a local shop or an organization. And we have people attending and using our bike valets, our most engaged users. If you continue to attend our events or respond to educational materials, or if we have just those engaged users, you have enough like stickers or something, or if you get enough bike walks tickets, you can get a bike at the end of the year. We'll give away a bike for a child and for an adult. So that was one idea that I was supportive of. I really like that idea. But being able, again, to do something like that, or bike sweep, not sweepstakes, what did he say? It was like a giveaway or something. But that was one idea that we had for allocating budget. But I think with all this, we still have remaining budget to spend. So is there anyone else with suggestions on what we should be spending budget on here? Anna?
Reiterating what I came up with earlier, I think using budget to pay for training for commissioners, in particular, specifically what came up earlier was the idea of bike mechanic training, and that could be open, not even just commissioners, but more generally, I think spending money on helping commissioners or city employees or other public officials become more well-educated on topics relating to biking and walking, I think is money that's well spent. I feel like one of the best things that the commission did while I was chair was send me and Vanessa to that seminar of Jeff Specs in Cambridge. You could do that again in theory. You could send, we could send Emily or somebody else from the commission, somebody else from the city, maybe a council member, to that same seminar. Or there's other stuff. Every year we talk about sending somebody to the bike summit, which I think takes place in March in DC. That's put on by the league. That's not the registration isn't very expensive, but we haven't ever done that. But that's another. I think that falls into that same category. Just a couple ideas there, but I definitely think we should spend some money in that category.
I think that's a great idea. Thank you, Tanner. Becca.
Just highlighting some ideas that you and I discussed off list is we wanted to lift up our friends over at First Congregational Church on the Green, who of their own volition installed a bike rack on their property and christened it, and it's now open. It's wonderful. I think you and I agreed, Emily, that we both felt
First
sad
Congregational
that
or St. Paul's? I think
St. Paul's. Thank you. Different church, same green.
Go ahead, Becca, though. Sorry.
Or was I thinking of New Haven? Anyway, those bike racks got installed, which is wonderful. But I think Emily, you and I both shared sort of a lament that there wasn't a direct way for us to help with that. So perhaps if there were money that could be set aside, and if there was a way that the Bike Walk Commission could have a process for requesting a bike rack, and then somehow that goes to TMP for approval, et cetera, and we help bankroll that. And then the other thing that we discussed was if there's community events that align with our goals, if we could help bankroll those, like maybe tabling at Earth Day or making a donation to the Earth Day committee or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Paying an honorarium to whoever's to a bike co-op person who's going to instruct us.
That's a really good point. And thank you for bringing up Ellie who attended our commission meeting back in October and requested the bike racks to be installed around the Norwalk Green at St. Paul's, went and got it done. That was amazing to see. And I'm excited to share a video of the blessing she gave to the bike racks and other things. So that'll come out hopefully on social media. She's going to send me a picture. Shout out to Mike Mushak also, who got that done. But to your point, Becca, absolutely, I would love to see that engagement with especially businesses or local organizations or even individuals that want a bike rack in their area. It would be nice to find a way to condition that and get that in front of TMP. Greg, I see Brad, you have your hand raised as well.
Sure. Yeah. Hi again. I was just wondering, is there a citywide lost and found for bicycles? You were talking about, the police department, and I've got to think that they have a pile of used bicycles somewhere, stolen bicycles, so forth, abandoned bicycles. Is that something that they can, provide to you? And then if you have a bike mechanic, I mean, all of a sudden you can have a bunch of a bunch of bicycles available to the public for free.
I mean, Brad, what
That's
you're
very
describing is
true.
a bicycle co-op, like I was describing earlier. We just need organization and people to do it, and space.
Right, but is there a lost and found though that the city has? There's got to be a lot of bicycles somewhere.
Like a bike repo
In-
auction.
Right. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. In the past, and I learned this from our meeting with the mayor, it sounds like in the past, the police department had partnered with another organization, not the Bike Walk Commission specifically, but there was a police officer that was doing something like that and using lost and found bikes or stolen bikes, anything that the police department had available at the end of the year, and then had a giveaway to kids and adults and things like that. I would love to see something like that. I think that would be, yeah, communicating with the police department and seeing if that's still available, maybe to the city to use, or if they are already partnered with another nonprofit or organization. I think it's something we should look into. Thank you for bringing that up. I will make a note to do that. Tanner, I see you have your hand raised as well.
Yeah, one last point there. The transit district did donate a handful of bikes from the exact same situation to bikes that had been abandoned on buses or at bus stops. They donated, I want to say, on the order of like 4 or 6 bikes to the bicycle co-op, and I think they ultimately went to Phil's garage, and I think Phil did fix a few of them up.
Phil Kiaya?
Yeah, so we have done that on a very small scale before from the transit district.
The other thing I know is like certain apartment buildings with bike rooms, there's sometimes abandoned bikes there. So my building, they'll give away bikes when they clean out the bike room. So it's definitely, I feel like the resources are there. It's the manpower, woman power. We need to get it done. Perfect. But so, going kind of back to Becca's original point, which was having bike racks on our budget. Greg, I'm kind of looking to you. Is that something that we would want? In your opinion, would that make sense for us to be doing? I know you kind of warned us if we start doing this, for one organization or one purpose, we have to, align it to make sure we're not giving preference one over the other. But to Becca's suggestion, where if we get enough, people wanting this or sign-offs or just community members asking for this, is there like a priority scale that we can start to make and then at least award some sort of budget or spend towards that?
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely worthwhile if the commission definitely wants to do it. I think just creating a process and just, getting it out into the public's eyes, so they can refer it, and then also to recommend the bike rack to get, so there's some continuity there in the bike racks, whether they're in the public realm or in the private realm as well. So it's not just these ad hoc bike racks everywhere. So if there's a program that the commission develops, there's certainly room if the commission's interested in doing it, it's your budget, to purchase bike racks for private entities.
Okay. I guess. Nope.
I wouldn't suggest putting a number to this quite just yet. I think you really should get a more solid number.
Yeah, these are all estimates. None of these are quotes or anything. Like we don't exactly know. I was just putting a rough estimate of what I believe a bike rack to cost, which I'm not the expert to say, but if we put down 1,500 on a bike rack, we're close to our limit. That's all I'm trying to see here.
Well, all of these you can like go in with the idea saying that we have this much money to spend on it, but the bike rack I think is something that, well, I guess you could argue you could get like different qualities of bike rack, but there's going to be a minimum there. Whereas the other ones are more like, we have this much money to spend, we'll buy as much of this item as that will get us.
Okay. So should I remove this line for now, or?
No, I think any ideas we have on this should just have its own line item in the table. If we just don't have a number associated with it, just leave the number blank. So that way it gets a little visibility in terms of like, we need to get a quote on this. And even for items that like I know Tanner mentioned that event he went to, where like one of the members of the Common Council, like we don't know what the cost of that would be, but like having a blank line item there just to like remind us that that's something we might want to spend money on, I think would be a good thing to put on the table.
Okay, perfect. And I know we're a few minutes over time, so I'm not going to rush us into, I guess, voting on any spend today. But if there are, I will send this after our meeting to our commissioners so that they can go in and review these potential budget spends and, like Nick was saying, make sure we have correct pricing and things like that. And then the other part to this is we do need, if it's a new W-2, we need 2 quotes. So if we do spend on the bike lights where we ordered from before, I think we don't need 2 new quotes, correct, Greg? We can just use that same vendor, or do we have to do that process every time?
Well, it would be the process to getting quotes, depending on how much it is, of course, and depending on what style that that we're going for. So another thing too is the logistics end of it. If it's ordered by the Bike Walk Commission, where is it being delivered to, and how is the entity picking it up and ensuring that they're going to install it and install it properly. So that's why I'm saying just to create a program, just so all that is on paper, so that we have the process written and the private entity is understandable, and there's no miscommunication between the commission, the city, and then whoever is we're giving the bike rack to.
Okay. Great. Any questions from the public or comments, or from our commissioners? Any last thoughts? Okay. That was our last item on our meeting. I apologize for going a little over time, but thank you all for your participation today. And our next meeting will be the first Monday in February, which I don't know offhand, but will be February 3rd, Monday, February 3rd at 6 p.m. Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have a quorum to vote on our minutes from our last meeting? No, we don't. Oh, sorry. Never mind. Okay. Can I make a motion to adjourn the meeting? Or can I entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I will move to end the meeting.
Thank you, Tanner. I see Becca. Okay, all in favor? Or I guess I don't. Thank you all so much. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you, Darlene.
Have a good night.